All the people just stop and stare at the hurting people.
The Homeless Blues, sung by a man who knows the tune by heart. In fact, he's living it in Maple Ridge, BC.
I moved out here years ago to work. I lost my family. I haven't been working. Got in trouble with the cops. I go to court tomorrow. I live in this park. I sleep up by that act. My work boots are over in a tree there. My bathroom, my dryer, my drawer.
Alan Smith doesn't go into much detail about his past, and his future is just as murky. Because while the park seems to have lots of room, there are no empty beds in nearby homeless shelters. And believe it or not, it may all be tied to one of the biggest issues in this election campaign, affordability. We'll explain the connection a bit later.
I'm the candidate for Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows.
Ahmed Youssef is running for the Liberals in the riding of Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge. He's a municipal councillor who wants to move into federal politics. Here, tell me why you got into politics initially.
So I got into politics because one of my close friends, who actually owns and operates a mechanic shop down here in the downtown area, came to me and complained that everything that was not bolted down in his shop was walking away. And the straw that broke the camel's back for him was when one of his pregnant customers was accosted and shoved by someone who was aggressively panhandling her.
It's not that homelessness is any worse in Maple Ridge than in other BC cities, but in recent years it's received a lot of attention, particularly over a notorious homeless camp. Anita's Place has been dismantled and its residents offered social housing, but there are still many people living on the street here.
I'm Al Hogarth. I'm the president of the Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows Chamber of Commerce. Maple Ridge, I mean, it's kind of in my heart anyhow. It's an absolutely fabulous place. I mean, I've seen the population grow from 15,000 people since I was young to where we are today at almost 95,000. People say, oh, well, we've lost that small town flair, that flavor. Yeah, we may have lost some of it, but not all of it. I mean, we still have a very, in my opinion, a very unique community.
Maple Ridge is the most populous area in the riding of Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge. These are bedroom communities situated between the Fraser River and the mountains, about an hour's drive east of Vancouver, depending on the traffic. There is commuter rail, but it only operates during the morning and evening commute. More than half the people who commute work outside of this area, and that's a significantly higher percentage than the national average. Since the construction of a new bridge over the Fraser River, growth here has accelerated, pushed by people looking for cheaper housing. And they are often young families. The median age in Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge is 43 and a half years old, which is lower than BC as a whole.
Port Coquitlam, and then Vancouver.
Former BC MLA Mark Dalton is the Conservative incumbent. He won the seat from the Liberals in 2019 in a close three-way race. He says growth is helping the Tories.
What happens is that we have a lot of millennials come here, a lot of townhouses, a lot of new construction. But what happens is when they move here and they purchase, they have to pay the bills, okay? And it's expensive, and so they're cognizant of the cost of living. They're cognizant of making ends meet and all that. And so I think that the Conservative platform, it really does resonate.
The NDP's plan is going to put people back to work on green infrastructure projects. And
Phil Clapwick is the new Democrat candidate in this riding. The NDP has come in third here in the last two federal elections, but the area is now represented by New Democrats in the provincial legislature. This riding has been close. Certainly provincially, it's been an NDP riding for some time. Does that give you some confidence going into the last few weeks of the campaign?
Absolutely. I think the work that Bob Deeth and Lisa Bear have done to actually answer and listen to the questions that are posed by the people of Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, that's work that I can capitalize on and push forward as we go towards the end of the campaign here.
So you've been knocking on doors. What are people telling you?
Well, there's a homelessness issue here in Maple Ridge, and it's driven a lot by both affordability and also the opioid crisis and addictions and mental health. And people want that to be addressed, and they want it to be dealt with. And of course, some of that responsibility lays at the municipal level and the provincial level, but they're looking for somebody that can actually bring those parties together and get everybody talking and solve the problem. So that's what I plan to do.
You were a teacher here, you were saying. You were an MLA for a while,
Yes.
and an MP as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I represented this area for about 8 years as MLA. I was a teacher, maybe 16 years. I'm still officially a teacher. And I went back after being elected for 8 years, went back teaching for a couple years and here in one of the schools. And it's good. Actually, it was good for me to do that, to reconnect with students and just to see how the dynamics have changed in culture as a whole. I know the community very well. With all in my interactions, it is, when I go door to door, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I taught you, and they got kids that are going to high school now, or helping them as an MLA or as an MP. So there's a lot of relationships.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I was born in Egypt, raised there until the age of 11. My family moved to the U.S. in 1989, where I was raised in Lincoln, Nebraska. I went through junior high, high school, and my first and second years of university there at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Later on, I transferred to the American University in Cairo, where I finished off my bachelor's in political science. I went to work for the United Arab Emirates government at the time at a think tank for 3 years. Then went back to Cairo, finished off my master's in international relations before going to Kuwait for 5 years, 2 of which I worked for the U.S. State Department Public Affairs Section, 3 of which I worked for the U.S. Department of Commerce Foreign Commercial Service.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but what are you doing in Maple Ridge?
What's not to love about Maple Ridge? It's a wonderful community. My twin daughters were born in Kuwait, and at 5 months of age, my wife and I decided that we want to raise them here in this community. My wife is Canadian, born in Comox, raised in Chilliwack on a dairy farm, so that's our connection to Canada. And having come here since 2003 every summer to visit my in-laws and visit Canada, I fell in love. I truly fell in love.
So, yeah, huge development that wasn't there 20 years ago.
There are still many farms in the riding of Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, but not as many as there were 20 years ago.
Flour, beets, carrot.
Legislation in BC prevents development of farmland, at least in theory, but it doesn't cap land value. Bob Hopcott's dad bought this 105-acre farm for $9,000, almost 100 years ago.
When my dad first bought the farm, he knew almost every car that went by. Now there's 22,000 cars a day go by here morning and night. So
that's good for business.
That's good for business.
But maybe not for farming.
Sometimes no, especially if you ever get on the road with farm equipment. The problem is there's less and less people that understand farming. Like in the old days, it used to be my uncle, my cousin, somebody had a farm. Now nobody knows nothing about farming, so you get a lot of irritated people.
There's all this new development here in Maple Ridge.
Yeah.
And a lot of these places are, $1.2, $1.3 million. So they're really not affordable for first-time homeowners.
No, I wouldn't think so.
And so there's a lot of development that's gone on where we've turned all these giant tracts of land into tiny postage stamp lots.
So who's moving in?
Well, people from the city. Especially because they can now work remotely, right? So there's a tremendous amount of outflow from the city. So it's changing the demographics of Maple Ridge, too.
To your benefit politically?
Politically, to my benefit,
so?
Yes.
How so?
Well, we get a much more diverse crowd out here now. And so the people are coming at it with different experiences. They're coming from the inner city of Vancouver, and they're bringing with them more of an inclination to vote for the NDP. So
Well, they certainly voted the NDP here provincially.
Yeah, we've seen that trend rise, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's...
And the NDP did very well in places like Surrey, in Langley, they won ridings they never won before, the party did.
That's right, and in Mission even, so...
Yeah.
So
what does that tell you?
Well, it tells me there's hope. We have not just for my campaign, but we can actually make progressive change for the better for the city, for the riding, for the constituents, for sure.
Is there any difference between representing this area as a MLA versus as an MP?
Well, the commuting time is a lot different. So it's, there's similarities and there's differences. There's similarities as far as engagement with people and serving people. That's always been the priority for me. But some of the topics, some of the issues we're dealing with are different. Could be national defense, immigration. We're talking about federally here. It might be more education, the medical, a variety of things. So some of the topics. My vision has always been federal. I began that way. I ran in 2006 against in Burnaby New West. Was not successful, and then went provincial. I suppose the reason why I've had that vision nationally is part of it has to do with my background. I was raised up in a military home. I've lived across Canada, little Air Force bases, in Quebec, in Alberta, in Ontario, in British Columbia, all over the place. Was in the military myself. I speak French, a little bit of Spanish. I'm Indigenous, Métis. So I've always had that vision for Canada.
It is a three-way race. So my primary competition are the NDP and the Conservatives. I myself, being quite much more so of a centrist, I'd like to think that I can, as I've used the analogy before, I was created with my arms and ears on opposite sides, so I can reach out to both sides, so I can hear both sides and be right there to look after the greater good and to serve the greatest number of my community members that I possibly can.
You see somebody on the street, you're at the door, give me your pitch.
My name is Yusuf, and I'm running for the Federal Liberal Party in our riding, and I'd like to be of service to your community. Can I count on your support?
What can you do for me?
What can I do for you? Well, first and foremost, I will advocate as much as I can. I am energetic, I'm enthusiastic, and I have the love of this community at heart, as I have for many years, volunteering for the Friends in Need Food Bank, volunteering for Operation Red Nose, Scouts Canada, Canadian Blood Services. I have my family right here, and I promise to go to work every day of the week and twice on Sunday for you.
Well, the residents of Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge have been ill-served by the sitting MP at this point. We feel that he's done a lot of work to explain his actions in Ottawa to the people of our riding, but hasn't actually listened to the voices and taken their plights to Ottawa. He stuck his foot in his mouth a couple times with some tweets that were terrible. And
Relating to?
Related to long-term care and the reopening of the economy, which really made a lot of people very upset. Recently, he voted against the ban on conversion therapy, which I'm hearing a lot is unconscionable. It doesn't represent the values and the morals of the people of the city, and he should have listened to his constituents.
Some of your opponents have criticized you for voting against the ban on conversion therapy, gay conversion therapy. How do you respond to their criticisms?
Well, first of all, I'll say that I am totally opposed to conversion therapy. Nobody should be forced to change their sexual preference against their will. So I would certainly support a bill against conversion therapy that the Conservative Party will be introducing if we form government. I actually did vote in favor of the bill in the second reading. So the purpose of that was that you bring it forward to committee stage to bring forward amendments. And that's just typical. We've done that with many of the supports to bring improvements. And so what we were asking is that some of the things that they actually had on the Department of Justice website, just incorporate that into the bill and to apply some of the expert witnesses that there's a lot of expert witnesses to apply some of those recommendations inside of the bill. That's all we're doing. And so I will be voting in favor of a bill that goes forward.
But you voted at the end of the...
At the end of the day, I voted against. But here's something else, though. This is I think it's a terrible example of wedge politics.
You're a municipal councillor.
Correct.
What made you decide to become an MP?
I wanted to really apply my skill set to be of service to the community, having lived here since 2010 and raised my family and continuing to raise my young family here in Maple Ridge and in the Pitt Meadows region. I saw that I can be of better use to the community at a federal level to be able to raise the profile of our community, as well as, of course, bring the voices of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows to Ottawa in a way that is conducive to us being able to capitalize on the federal level of government and really bring in the funding that's needed, the services that are needing, and to have our community being heard.
What the government should do, I think they should try and make the environment more comfortable for people, because things are tough. And then the government should come up with programs that can help people better thrive or survive the economy. As it is right now, there are no incentives, there are no funds being given to help people get out of their situation. They're helping some businesses here and there, but there are people that have been neglected in the park who are the main voters, but they are not being noticed. So I think they should consider paying attention to people like that.
What do you think the federal government or an MP should do to help out Maple Ridge?
Make housing more affordable would be a good start. Yeah, support the most vulnerable, probably. I think that's a good place.
How about you, Mel?
I agree with her, definitely, because we work with the most vulnerable, so anything that we can do to help families, young families, thrive and live and be able to meet their expenses.
What are the issues that are important to you?
Of course, health is very important. Education for the kids is very important.
Yeah.
And most is kids, right? For me, it's kids, the education. Yeah.
More infrastructure, better transportation. The transportation here is very difficult to deal with, and a lot of people live further out. So that would be my number one concern.
What about other issues? Anything else that strikes you?
Housing is a problem, so it's difficult to buy a home that's affordable.
So give me the top two.
Oh, I don't know, man. There's lots of things that need to happen here.
Yeah.
Maybe the homeless problem.
The main issues, probably to do with the vaccine mandates and things like that.
Yeah. How so?
There should probably be stronger impetus to get more people vaccinated, I'd say.
What do you think the politicians should do to help Maple Ridge?
Improve housing and improve schooling system that they have out here, especially the housing, you know. That's what they really need out here for all the younger and older people, like the senior citizens and everything.
Yeah.
And the street people, get them off the street, you know. That's what they need to do.
I'm homeless, so there's a lot of poverty issues they probably could help with. Yeah, a lot of astigmatisms and stuff that they don't tend to deal with as much as they campaign for it.
What could the federal government do to help homeless?
Honestly, I do not know. It's hard. I have a lot of issues on the plate. I'm dealing with a residential tenancy because I was illegally evicted, and like a big soap opera behind it all, I guess. But
how long have you been on the street?
A year. Yeah, I was pushed from my home. I had my kids taken away, a bunch of stuff going on. But
no, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. All I can do is pray, right? Pray the government gets the help to people that need it, I guess. Yeah.
Being close to nature is one of the things that brings people out here to live. You can drive to the mountains in about a half hour from just about anywhere in the riding. There are several large lakes and parks where many residents enjoy spending their time. But even though the median income in Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge is in the top 20% compared to other ridings in Canada, the growing cost of housing is starting to squeeze people, particularly younger people.
My name's Paul Kershaw. I'm a professor at the University of BC School of Population Health and founder of something called Generation Squeeze. Gen Squeeze refers to a demographic, younger generations, Gens X, Y, and Z, who are squeezed by lower earnings, higher costs, less time, and a deteriorating environment. And in response to that big problem, we've created an organization that aims to promote intergenerational fairness, to improve our country's well-being, powered by younger voices and all those who love them, backed by cutting-edge research.
The research shows that even in supposedly affordable communities, things aren't really affordable, and it's affecting all levels of society.
There is a common idea that hard work isn't paying off quite like it used to. And I can refer to the lawyer or doctor in Metro Vancouver who would have thought that with their good lawyer salary, getting a house with a yard should have been like a no-brainer. And they're struggling to find a place to rent with a third bedroom for their second child. And then you can say they start to compete for rental now? Oh my gosh, and so that's then crowding out those in the middle of the income distribution who start looking for the more affordable rental, which then crowds out those who are more working poor, who then crowd out those looking for social housing, which was supposed to help us solve homelessness, which then exacerbates street homelessness. And it's this intergenerational reality of hard work not paying off in the same way across the demographic, then that exacerbates some of the greatest socioeconomic vulnerabilities that we witness.
The evidence that high housing costs in affluent areas of Vancouver is tied to the homelessness problem in Maple Ridge isn't surprising to the people working in this temporary housing facility. Even with government subsidies, many of the residents here can't move on.
People living here receive a subsidy. So that, as well as their disability grants, enables them to live here and receive 2 meals a day. Without that, they would not be able to go to market rent without the subsidies. And even then, even with the subsidy, it would be almost impossible.
We have a lot of people between our sites who are ready to move on to market housing, but can't do it because there's just not enough of affordable housing, if any. And you only have so many spots, and you know there's a lot of people waiting to get into those spots.
Hello. Hi. How's it going? Jen, this is,
Hi.
You got an addition here, is this?
Yes, it's a sweet addiction.
Oh.
Mark Dalton believes treatment for people with substance abuse challenges needs to be improved, with more beds in facilities like this.
You wanted to come here, why?
I found this place to be a place of hope and transformation. And so, not just this one, there's other recovery places here, and I'm sorry, it's hard for me. So many of them come to such brokenness, and to see them restored, and it's not easy. Some lapse, some come back, but to see that happening here is wonderful. And I think that message has to get there, that source of hope. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but it's for a lot of people that need this. And I think that we have to expand this in Canada. So that's why.
It's a big issue in this community.
It's a big issue in this community. It's a big issue in Canada. Over 20% of the population struggles with addiction at one point in their life. Over 8 million Canadians. So we just, we're not, I think there's a role for the federal government. What can we do to help?
One of the main issues that I would like to work on behalf of our community is to have that treatment, to have the entry, the easy entry, to cut down on the wait, have the treatment on demand available for our straight population. I believe that will go a long ways in service of our community. Secondly, the environment is very high on our agenda collectively. The Alouette River is considered to be a sacred river by the Katzie Nation, as well as, of course, us newcomers. I came to Maple Ridge in 2010, and of course, everybody else who came after the Katzie Nation had already been here for millennia. It is a very important part of our community. So to restore habitat along the river, to ensure that we have a fish passage, to then have the salmon be able to go all the way up to Alouette Lake and spawn as they once did, not only helps our community, it helps everyone else downstream, if you will, all the way out to the orcas that feed on the salmon. So it's again, having that ability to use the municipal lens and being here on the ground in the community, and then zooming out and being able to capitalize on the federal government's role and where they can be. And then thirdly, of course, is the climate change issues that we face. All around us, we've seen the fires, we've seen the heat dome that was unprecedented in so many ways. And with that, seeing that the Liberal government has the most viable plan.
My name's Phil Clapwick. I'm the NDP candidate in Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge.
Hi, how are you?
This is my friend Cole.
Hi.
We're just out talking to people in the riding about the election coming up and issues that matter to them. So how are you feeling?
I'm from Afghanistan, you tell me.
Oh my gosh, no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a tragedy.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Canada?
All my life, 30 whatever years, 32
Do you still
years.
have family there?
Sorry?
Do you still have family?
My
in-
in-laws are all there.
And they're still there?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my
Yeah.
heart is breaking for you. That's terrible. How do you deal with that, right? Like, that's just so, we don't have any frame of reference for that at all.
No, losing everything.
So it's not something you can deal with politically, right? Like, to say that you have family members still there under a brand new regime and to not be able to do anything about it, to not trust your government, that your government's going to do something, it's so
Well, I
hard.
guess that's why you're running, so we can change that.
Yeah, I just feel that's a tough one.
Back in the park, as we're talking to Alan Smith, Ahmed Youssef and his team arrived to start taking pictures. People living on the street are a troubling election issue, and all the candidates know a solution needs to be found. Maybe they should listen to Mr. Smith.
We need housing. All parties can agree on that? Then why don't they work on that? Because they're too busy fighting for that one seat, man. How about 3 seats for Maple Ridge? And if we had 3 seats, maybe they'd work together and get things done, right? That's all, hey, you know, democracy and all that, right? Do the poor have democracy? Do the poor have freedom?
That's a question being asked right across the country, and the data suggests affordability is the key to unlocking overpriced housing at all levels of society. And maybe, one day, Alan Smith will stop singing the blues. All right. I'm Ed Watson for CPAC.